Modded maps are something of a rarity for Conan Exiles. They're a massive time investment for creators and can take months or even years just to get to alpha, so they're nowhere near as common as your regular run-of-the-mill mods. However, when they do pop up, most of them are something special. This map though is seriously impressive. Welcome to the Legend of Shem. This modded map is in its infancy, yet is already absolutely enthralling. Today I'm going to tell you all about it. The Legend of Shem map mod is created by Darth Physicist, released on December 27th, 2024. From what I can tell, Darth has already created at least 2 other map mods, those being the Isle of Men and the Isle of Women. At a pretty hefty 1.8GB file size, the Legend of Shem is designed to be as lore accurate to the Shemite Stygian border as possible, and is intended to feel like a sequel map to the Exiled Lands. Fun fact, because of that sequel design, your character actually doesn't have a bracelet on this map. Legend of Shem includes ambushes, large events, camps, temporary and faction interchangeable camps, faction NPCs, new and old bosses, merchants, cities, licensed world architecture and much more, with a roadmap planned out for the future too. But for right now, what awaits you in these lands? You start on the trade road north of New Luxor, on the path through the Stygian border towards Shem. The map itself gives you an idea of what you're up against, an enormous world sliced in two by the river Styx, the border between northern Stygia and southern Shem. However, before we can even talk about what's on this map, we need to talk about the psychology of the map design itself. The northern border of Stygia is an incredibly hostile biome. Packed with Stygian slavers and nomads, most people you meet are powerful and aggressive, and water is sparse, often relegated to wells in camps or small scattered lakes. However, all of that pales in comparison to the landscape itself. Most of your time on the northern border of Stygia is spent entombed amongst the mountains. The sheer scale and verticality of the world is just really impressive, and does an amazing job of making you feel tiny. Following the trade road will offer a winding path through hostile territory, desperately seeking water and shelter, avoiding Stygian soldiers, nomads, and of course the sandstorm too. Slave caravans and strange ruins lurk around each corner, and should you travel too far you may find such strange vistas as the sepulchre of the giant kings in the far east, the fumes of the desert in the west, and no matter where you go, the dizzying sandstone spires tower above you like colossi. However, when the sandstone gives way, you may catch a glimpse of one of the most captivating structures in the south. The Great Pyramid of Thoth Amon lurks in the west. The sky darkens as you approach, and though the size of the southern mountains are impressive, you never quite feel as small as you do beneath the pyramid. The eastern side contains ancient sand-ravaged ruins and a ramp up to the pyramid itself. Unfortunately, the only thing inside it at the moment is an enormous map room and an unopenable door at the opposite end. I presume this will be a grand dungeon in the future though, it seems only fitting. As you travel north you will eventually reach the river Styx. You can cross on the ground, but you'll most likely end up traversing one of the rickety bridges across the ravine. As you do so, the second genius element of the map design reveals itself. Whereas Stygia is a hostile tomb of mountains and malevolence, Shem opens up into hills and plateaus, grasslands and forests and plentiful lakes. North of the river the map design completely changes, opening wide and revealing a massive swathe of land before you. Additionally, the suffocating fog that reduces long distance visibility in the upper parts of Stygia is mostly lifted in Shem, adding to that feeling of space and grandeur. Mechanically, the survival conditions get a little easier in Shem. There's plenty of enemy camps and such, but also friendly cities and abundant resources like water that were previously scarce in Stygia. I really don't want to spoil everything in Shem, it truly is a joy to explore, but there are some great landmarks I want to show you. If you follow the fugitive journey, you'll likely reach Abadra first, a lush and fertile city of reasonable size, packed with trees and merchants and buzzing with life. The licensed buildings here, and across the map, really make the whole place feel far more immersive and creates a really unique vibe. Just north of that city is the Great Cedar Forest, which doesn't look like much from above, but on the ground feels like a vast swathe of untamed woodland, a decent spot to hunt the resident wildlife and a welcome breath of fresh air from the desert setting. Akaria in the west is another really impressive city, helmed by a glorious palace and absolutely dominated by trees, creating an almost forest city feel as you walk the streets. There's also the ancient sorcerer's tomb near Akaria. I won't spoil what's in here, but if you're looking for a complex dungeon with some impressive staging, this is the place to come. Finally, in the far east, the Great Mine. No prizes for guessing what's here, but the sheer scale and atmosphere of this mine is well worth the visit, let alone the abundant treasures you'll find inside. This is by no means an exhaustive list, there's plenty more for you to find and probably plenty more I haven't even found yet, but you should really explore this biome yourself. There's tons of things tucked away and the environmental work in general is just really beautiful. Roughly the upper row and a half of the map is inaccessible and you will die of exposure if you try and head too far up there, same with the borders. You'll get some forewarning though, so you don't just randomly drop dead fortunately. However, even within the playable area of the map, which is pretty big, it is just rammed with detail and interesting things to find. So the map looks beautiful and it's interesting to explore, but is it gameplay ready? Well, it might not have all the bells and whistles, but I think you could probably play this to a reasonably successful degree. Stone, wood, iron, brimstone, gold and silver, coal, all the basic resources you need are on the map. Star metal also exists, though it seems to exclusively fall around the border. I haven't laid my eyes on any black ice yet though. That being said, an interesting thing to note is that the game progression can seemingly be expedited or eased with the merchants at some of the cities. They sell weapons, armour, tools and resources, so if you can get your hands on some gold, you can just straight up purchase what you need. It might not be cheap necessarily, but I actually really like the idea of having an alternative path to get some of the resources that otherwise might be hard to get your hands on. As far as I'm aware, currently the only dungeon in game is the one at the Sorcerer's Tomb. The gameplay experience isn't as fully fleshed out as the Exiled Lands, Siptar, but at this stage of development you can't expect that of course. For being so early in development though, it seems surprisingly playable. Also, for all my build enjoyers, there are build blockers on the map, but they seem to be mainly settled around cities, camps and other important POIs. I'd probably say the vast majority of the map is buildable, so you will have a wealth of space to construct your own base. So, is the Legend of Shem map worth a try? I absolutely think it is. For being so early in release, it's an impressive project, and even if you only decide to explore the map design itself, you are in for a real treat. I checked in on the devs modding Discord, and the resounding opinion from my brief look through the chat seems to be the map is indeed playable, but it's a pretty hard and unforgiving experience. If that sounds like your sort of vibe, then it seems you're in luck here. The overall map and environmental design though really is the shining gem in this map's crown. That contrast between the towering mountains of Stygia and the open vistas of Shem is staggering the first time you see it, and there's so many great details tucked into all the nooks and crannies on this map that it really is commendable. I've spent a good few hours on this map now and I've probably only found a handful of them. Every inch of it is really worth being scoured over. I always get really excited to try out modded maps, and this one is outstanding. If you're looking for something new to try that is as impressive and broad as it is difficult, you should definitely give Legend of Shem a try. I'll be keeping an eye on this map as it progresses, so you can probably expect some future videos on this mod, especially as more features are added in the future. Finally, it seems only right to wrap things up with words from Darth Physicist himself about what inspired him to make the map and what the experience he's aiming for is in the future. The inspiration came from the base game itself. So many modded maps, my other two included, tend to take the opportunity to go outside the bounds of the game. On this one, my goal is to be hyper-focused on what can happen after the bracelet is removed and you leave the Exiled Lands, sort of an unofficial sequel. The hope is by the time I've done all the updates it will feel like a natural extension of the game with new features and game mechanics for dungeons and things that feel unique and hopefully polished enough that they feel totally at home in the game. In addition, as I add new content I'll be drawing on the Conan lore as much as possible to do the franchise justice. I consider this map my love letter to the game. Anyway, that will wrap us up for today. I hope you've all enjoyed exploring the new Legend of Shem map. I think it's a super interesting mod that has a huge amount of potential. Let me know if you've given it a try in the comments. I can see this quickly becoming a big hit. Thanks for watching, and of course a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. If you want to see videos early and support the channel directly, consider joining us over on Patreon, link in the description and pinned comment. Take care, and I'll see you soon.